It was back to the drawing board for the Falcons today, time to reflect on last night's defeat. Their 26-point loss to the Brisbane Bullets on home ground certainly wasn't in Coach Wiseman's playoff plans.
We started the ball game well and then folded to their pressure.
Before a record crowd of more than 4,000, the Falcons raced ahead 17-12, Al Green keeping things on track. But then the wheels fell off. The fans showing similar sentiment. Terry Dozier's 3 fouls early in the first quarter appeared to unsettle the Falcons. Brisbane sensed this and capitalised. By half-time, the Bullets led 68-48, shooting 75% from outside the circle and turning on the defence. The Falcons in the second half, this adding to Dozier's 33 points for the game. But Brisbane were on a roll. Continued pressure prompting basic mistakes by Newcastle, the home side's woes compounded by a foul count of 22, which was double Brisbane's. Meanwhile, the Bullets' Dave Colbert and Shane Heal enjoyed the Falcons' failure to close them down.
It was a defensive fail, and we tried different people, and we still were playing people for the drive when they were hitting threes on us, and so it's just adjustments that we have to make on the court.
The second playoff is in Brisbane tomorrow night, with the third, if needed, also in Brisbane on Sunday. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
It's more than a boat race. The carnival coincides with the town's Twin Rivers Festival. For many, the first glimpse of about 30 go-fast craft will be on trailers in the Grand Parade. There'll also be scrutineering and test runs for noise regulation compliance tomorrow afternoon.
We've had a lot of help from the residents and the council and the waterways and the Chamber of Commerce and all the small business houses in town that have all chipped in to assist us in prize money for sponsorship of the races.
There are inboard and outboard categories, as well as an open unlimited class where boats will be hitting speeds of up to about 160 kilometres an hour. Maitland driver Larry Ray has been burning the midnight oil preparing this Chev on water, a big block 7.5 litre 454 Chev engine which runs on aviation fuel.
A lot of power. There's over 600 horsepower there, and it takes a bit to hang on to sometimes.
The trophy events in the carnival will be the Hunter Valley Championships, the Flying Mile and the Lady Drivers Point Score. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
The visit by 2 members of the National Task Force on Regional Development was to assess how the federal government can help future growth of areas like the Hunter. Newcastle's Dr. Margaret Bowman is a panel member. She says receiving the region's submission is challenging.
Well, yes, I have to, because if you live here all the time, I think you lose the big picture sometimes, whereas it's an opportunity for Peter Woods and myself to hear from the people here on the ground, the people who will realise their vision for the future, what they see it as, and what they see as the impediments, what could be the changes in federal policy that could help bring that vision into reality.
An issue already confronting the task force is regional identity.
Our proximity to Sydney and that region gives us advantages, but it also means that we tend to be overshadowed, whereas people from outside this region think of Sydney, Newcastle, Wollongong as one big complex. It isn't that at all.
The region's main submission was prepared by the Hunter Economic Development Council and Federal Task Force for the Hunter. The Port of Newcastle headed a list of 8 matters requiring attention. Infrastructure to increase trade opportunities is regarded as critical to our future growth.
We'd like to see some development in the highway network and arterial road network around Newcastle and the Lower Hunter, and also in the freeway networks, and we'd be seeking some assistance from the federal government to fund those projects.
The movement of new residents to the Hunter also ranked highly as a regional issue, with the government being asked to help with the promotion of areas outside capital cities for urban and business relocation.
Despite the favouritism of the councillors for the new General Manager, most of the people at the Chamber last night were keen to see Acting General Manager Phil Harvey given the post. Councillor Lynn Dalton outlined the views of most of the gallery in her speech. She also queried the new General Manager's salary. But the most remarkable move by Councillor Dalton came at the end of her speech. She told the council she was going to reveal to authorities documents suggesting the appointment was a conspiracy to get rid of Mr Harvey. Thousands lined the streets of Foster Tuncurry as the festival rolled into town. This is the 27th year the community event has been held, and judging by the number of people in the crowd today, the festival is getting bigger and bigger. Everything from surf clubs to local Scottish bands took part in the grand parade at 1 o'clock today. The Oyster Festival will continue tomorrow at John Wright Park, Tuncurry. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.
It's been a busy few weeks for 16-year-old Trudy Musgrave. It may be school holidays, but this Katara High student has had little time to relax. Yesterday, she finished competing in the National 16 Years tournament in Melbourne. Trudy reached the quarterfinals of the singles and was runner-up in the doubles, a performance she was a little disappointed with.
I'm just going to take it as an experience and as an advantage, because every time you lose, you learn something new.
So today it was back on the court, in clement weather taking her indoors so she could work on her game with number one supporter, her father Terry. Tomorrow, Trudy flies out to America for a 3-week tour of Texas with an Australian Institute of Sport team. In Texas, the team will stay at John Newcomb's tennis ranch and play 2 tournaments plus challenge matches against several universities. The intense competition Trudy is looking forward to.
Yeah, they're very strong over there. They're very tough mentally and physically, but it should be a really good experience.
Catherine Lamont, NBN News.
It was hard to tell which was the most colourful, Civic Park's gardens or the hundreds of umbrellas. But despite the bad weather, those who braved the elements took advantage of their holiday weekend by celebrating Matara.
We can organise everything. We can't organise the weather, so we just learn to live with it.
And for those looking for drier conditions, a huge range of exhibits of all shapes and sizes were found at City Hall. It's the 33rd year Matara has entertained crowds. Special events can be found at venues across the city. Although the rainy weather may have put a damper on the start of Newcastle's biggest festival, organisers say there's another 6 days of entertainment planned. They're all leading up to the main event on Saturday.
The big event, of course, is the Tui's Grand Parade, and that will be the biggest one that's ever been in Newcastle. We have over 80 entrants, separate groups, floats, bands. It'll be absolutely magic on Saturday.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Jimmy Cassidy, who's been wasting hard, it's going to pay off, and Zamination holding them at bay as they get near home. Zamination wins the Metropolitan as Zahma's come from a mile back to get second, Salkin Tay third.
Zamination paid $6.20 and $2.40. The Quinella $10.60 and the Trifecta $830.60. At Newcastle, the track stayed in good shape despite the rain for the NBN handicap.
Mr. Applause, Abervillian coming back on the inside. It's Mr. Applause and Abervillian. Abervillian's kicked and beat Mr. Applause. O'Hora's run third.
2, 12 and 10, $7.50 and $2.30 the winner paid. The Quinella $44.10 and the Trifecta just over $1,300.
Rescuers found the driver, believed to be a young local man, still strapped in the wreckage of his peeled-open sedan. The car left the Jerry's Plain Road at high speed and was torn open on impact with a tree. Pieces of the vehicle were strewn along the roadside, the engine torn from its mountings, metal bodywork flattened. Volunteer emergency personnel assisted police and the helicopter crew to load the driver on board Angel 2. On the flight back to the John Hunter Hospital, paramedics managed to revive the patient who'd stopped breathing. He was rushed to emergency surgery, suffering multiple injuries. Elsewhere, police patrols through the Hunter and Central Coast have reported a relatively quiet weekend on the roads. Of the 1,500 motorists breath tested in conjunction with Operation Slowdown, only 12 have been caught driving above the prescribed blood alcohol limit. Slant radar units have recorded dozens of speeding infringements, but highway patrol officers say most drivers are heeding warnings and using caution in the wet conditions. Holiday traffic is reported to be heavy but flowing smoothly this evening. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Despite claims from opposition councillors that Gosford City hasn't got the money to finish the Arts Centre and hasn't budgeted for the tens of thousands of dollars a year for its upkeep, the bulldozers have moved in, clearing for stage 1. An action group was formed to oppose the location of the Arts Centre, but it appears its petitions and public meetings have been in vain, with construction well underway. When completed, the centre will sit beside a $750,000 Japanese garden, paid for by Gosford's sister city, Edagawa. The gardens, the Arts Centre and their location have all attracted criticism, but Mayor Dirk O'Connor hopes it will be appreciated later, as was the Sydney Opera House.
It was panned by a minority when it was first started, but after the event we tend to say, isn't it great? And I'm sure the people who live close to here are going to say the same thing.
The $2 million first stage will also include the construction and sale of home units nearby. The forecast profit is needed to pay for the Arts Centre. The whole project is due for completion in June next year. Jenny Crouch, NBN News.
The Hunter Valley is home to some of the country's biggest studs, and at the moment, nearly every paddock is a picture of cuteness. Just one of the studs, Taronga Park, has already had 80 foals born in the past few weeks, and there's another 80 on the way. One of the new arrivals, though, stands out from the others. The filly of Golden Slipper winner Bounding Away is the Grey's first live foal. The 10-year-old mare was put to stud 6 years ago, but a stillbirth and a series of medical complications meant she didn't live up to expectations and was given to the stud for nothing to ensure she had a good home.
It left her with a complication which rather prejudiced her ability to have a foal subsequently, and there was really quite a worry that maybe she may have had her one first and last foal.
However, local vets Phil Redmond and John Morgan paired her up with impressive stallion Twig Moss and nursed her back to health. The result is a filly already rumoured to be worth $100,000. All the foals are pampered and treated like a newborn human. Each day they're inspected and given a thorough physical.
In the last 15 years, when the value of bloodstock has escalated, then naturally there's so much more finance involved that one has had to take every possible care.
In this paddock alone, there could be a few $1 million running around, but only when they get on the track will it be known if the investment was really worthwhile.
Angel 2 officially came online as the Hunter Region's Westpac rescue helicopter last Thursday, and almost immediately was called to fly a specialist medical team from the John Hunter Hospital to Kempsey to bring back a seriously ill patient. Since then, it's been business as usual.
What are we going to?
Cardiac arrest.
Where at?
Pacific Palms.
Sophisticated navigation systems were given a workout on a return flight from Foster. The chopper diverted because a four-wheel drive had rolled on a remote road in the Barrington Tops. For one patient with suspected spinal injuries, there was a quick trip back to the John Hunter Hospital. Again, in the middle of the night, the helicopter was back at the scene of a road accident west of Singleton. A glance at the aircraft log shows the demand for the service. Almost 15 hours have been flown. The aircraft has been to Tamworth twice for inter-hospital transfers, to sea searching for a vessel in trouble, to cardiac arrests, accidents. Chief Pilot Peter Cook says the new Bell 412 is very user-friendly.
It's a powerful machine, it's very stable, and is a very nice IFR platform, which means when we're flying in bad weather, it flies very nicely. It's got a fully coupled autopilot, and quite simply, it's everything the pilots hoped it would be.
Flights, time has been found to train crew members to use the new equipment, like the super winch that can pluck 3 people into the air in one lift.
This is the bee's knees. It's a Rolls-Royce hoist, this thing, and like I said, it will certainly enhance our operation.
In flight, the helicopter often becomes an intensive care ward. When this seriously ill young man was flown from a car accident near Jerry's Plains to the John Hunter Hospital, the new layout inside the chopper allowed 3 paramedics to carry out their life-saving work. The patient did stop breathing during the flight, but was revived and is now in intensive care. His condition serious. Over the next 12 months, the helicopter is expected to fly something like 600 missions. And a significant number of those missions will undoubtedly save lives. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
The land is said to be one of our greatest resources, and today Land and Water Conservation Minister George Souris announced a proposal to try and peg back degradation of our soils and vegetation.
It enshrines essentially protection of tree cover, in particular on slopes higher or greater than 18 degrees and on zones 20 metres either side of a designated stream.
At the McIntyre Development Unit Field Day at Inverell, the Minister released draft maps of land identified as protected in the region. The Minister says it's a move towards community-driven catchment management, where those living in the region determine where the government should allocate resources.
There is a period now of consultation and negotiation and adjustment before the maps are adopted as policy, and then when they are adopted as policy, they represent really a blueprint for land management by landholders themselves.
Extra detectives from Newcastle were called in today, joining police and volunteer rescue personnel from Cessnock to search bush and old mining company land.
During the course of the inquiry so far, there's been a number of locations mentioned. There's no specific reasons that we're searching in this location, but this and other locations nearby have been mentioned a few times during the inquiries, and subsequently that's why we've commenced in this area.
Alison Newstead left Cessnock's Carousel Cafe on Wednesday afternoon. Her car with wallet and medication still inside was later found in the car park of the nearby Ex-Services Club. Police say the disappearance is out of character for the popular teenager, whose distraught parents yesterday made a public plea for help in locating their daughter.
We miss her, we want her home.
Trail bike police and a sniffer dog were used to widen the search area. It's a task similar to finding a needle in a haystack. Detectives seeking clues questioned property owners. At this stage, police have few leads to go on and are seeking help from anyone who may have any information regarding Alison's whereabouts since Wednesday. Cessnock detectives can be contacted on 910 199 or through the Crime Stoppers hotline on 008 025 122. And it still remains a fairly out-of-character disappearance for this particular girl.
Oh, certainly. Very out of character. That's why such grave fears are now being held for a safety, and those fears are escalating as each day passes.
The numbers were down in Newcastle, one of the 7 venues for the world's biggest barbie, quite a bit shy of the 20,000 expected at Marathon Stadium for a day of non-stop entertainment and the chance to topple a world record.
This is the worst barbecue I've ever seen in my life.
Where is the barbecue?
I don't know. I wish it was at Taree because we've come 200 k's down here to bloody have a barbecue, and this is just the worst setup I've ever seen in my life.
There were 45 barbecues scattered around the grounds and undercover. Bands entertained the crowd and celebrities kept the ball rolling on stage. Darryl Braithwaite and band arrived under heavy security. Deborah Conway knocked out a tune. Fatty Vorton, hosting Sydney's biggest barbie, left local sporting identity Doug Walters holding the tongs.
Yeah, I'm going to hold the fort for Fatty here in Newcastle, and it's not an onerous task at all, really. I'm enjoying myself, and I think everyone else is enjoying themselves, which is what the day's all about, really.
It's taken months to organise, 100 florists to arrange and $20,000 in spring blooms. The result, Newcastle's first Festival of Flowers.
The arrangements here are really gorgeous. The whole display is beautiful.
The thumbs are turning from brown to khaki. It's a slow process, but this is a great incentive to keep going.
I think it's one of the best displays I've seen.
Do you think it might entice you to spend more money?
I would probably think so. It's definitely an attraction, that's for sure.
Everyone loves their gardens, many people love flowers, and we believe this beautiful exhibition will just reinforce that and make it another reason to come in here and shop in the city centre of Newcastle.
The spectacular display will be on show at David Jones until Saturday, when some arrangements will be up for sale. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
This group represents teachers and other people involved in literacy learning in the Hunter, Manning and Lake Macquarie regions. Today they became students of Jan Turbill, a literacy lecturer at the University of Wollongong. This group is learning to evaluate how they teach primary and secondary students literacy, that is, to read and write, and if there's a better way of doing it. This concept is called Frameworks. Jan Turbill is one of 3 people who designed it.
We're trying to help teachers value, understand and start to articulate their own personal belief about literacy and literacy learning.
Mrs Turbill says Frameworks uses an overall approach to teaching children phonetics and word formation.
Literacy isn't just the mere reading and writing of simple little words, but learning of strategies of how to cope when I'm in a situation that I've never been in before and I don't quite know what to do. So what is it I can do? Yes, I could do this and I could do that. So it's giving them options.
The Frameworks program was launched in Wollongong schools earlier this year. It's also been introduced in other parts of the state. Mrs Turbill claims the program is already proving a success.
More kids are reading. The library borrowing cards, if you like, are increasing in schools.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
The 77 Squadron Hornet was on a routine exercise off Newcastle when the inboard trailing edge flap broke away from the aircraft on July 13. The damaged fighter is being confined to its hangar while the Air Force investigated the cause of the failure. The problem identified as a cracked bearing in the wing, inexpensive but integral to the operation of the control surface.
We've managed to identify the part that failed, and we've got a pretty good idea why it failed. There are some questions still to be answered, and that's being analysed right now in our aircraft research laboratories down in Melbourne.
Flying operations of Williamtown-based squadrons hasn't been severely disrupted by the accident. However, checks of Hornets over recent months has prompted some RAAF action.
All the older aircraft have been checked. Any aircraft we thought might have occurred, the problem might have occurred in, we've checked all those. We've only found 2 other problems, and we'll be checking the whole fleet in the near future. We don't expect any more problems.
The RAAF expects it will be early next year before the damaged Hornet rejoins the Williamtown flight line. The cost of repairs is expected to come to $2 million. Gary Blair, NBN News. The Lockheed C-141 made one of its rare visits to Williamtown as part of the build-up for the joint American-Australian Air Force exercise Cape Boomerang. Due to return to the US via Japan on Sunday, the Starlifter had its operations stopped by an engine fault. Further frustration for the 10-member crew today with a fuel leak causing concern prior to takeoff. Williamtown's firefighters had to be called in to use their new truck to wash off residual fuel so it wouldn't cause problems in flight.
You know, it's an older airplane, and you know we are having more and more problems as it gets older. Nothing serious, nothing dangerous, but the maintenance as an airplane gets older is a lot more challenging.
Well, a stranger in our skies, the Starlifter is a 1960s aircraft, second biggest in the US air fleet and versatile. Its cargo bay allows the 50-metre-long aircraft to perform a wide range of roles from troop carrying equipment to medical evacuations. Strong winds provided another challenge for the aircraft as it departed Williamtown.
Yeah, it just makes it a little more of a challenging takeoff. Every takeoff and landing is different, and weather conditions make it so, and every runway is different.
American aircraft will be a common sight over the region, with the current exercise running for 3 weeks.